Hi, I'm here with Stefani Schaefer from Fox 8 News in the Morning. And Stephanie and the other anchors at Fox 8 maintain an active presence on social media platforms such as blogs. You blog for Fox 8. You're also on Facebook. So why don't you tell me why you think that news outlets are deriving benefit from connecting with viewers through these online platforms?
Well, I think definitely people cannot be at a television, at their television set, so they can't be at home. They're all over the place, and at work they want to be able to see what's happening. So I think how it all started really with the websites, and maybe 10 years ago or so, when we started saying that people aren't tied to those television sets. They need to be able to be mobile and get their news anytime, anywhere. And so that really started hard. And I noticed even too how we've developed our web team over the years, starting with one person or then a couple people. Now we have a whole web department who are here even throughout the night. So if those stories start breaking, they have to get it just as quick as we get it on the air. We get it as quickly on our website. And then I think the best part, I love keeping in touch with people. And viewers will have many questions. We'll do a health story, and they may say, well, what medication were you talking about, or what was... They want more details, or they have another question. And so instead of them having to write a letter, send it in the mail, and a couple days later get a response, the greatest thing is that they can email us, or even now I get so many messages on my inbox on Facebook, because then they can ask, hey, you were talking about this story 5 minutes ago. What's the answer? And I keep Facebook up when I'm on the set in the 7 o'clock hour, so I can actually give them instant answers in that second. And I think blogging's important too, because people want to know what we do on our daily lives. They want to know what's important to us, issues that we're behind or supporting, and it's just such a way to be able to reach out and in an instant, which is so cool.
And I think when people see you on TV every morning, they feel like they know you, and this seems like it adds that added level of connectivity where they can actually converse with you online.
That's so true. Well, many of us, will speak at events, or I do a lot with a lot of local charities, and I want so much to talk about them and to tell people a little bit about them, and that gives us that platform to do it. So we can show pictures from the events or talk about how important it is. And I have a blog up right now about people can click on it, and we're helping to donate free mammograms for women who are underprivileged and uninsured. And right now we have over 500 hits. So just that's such a great tool to be able to use when we can't talk about everything on the air. But it is fun. I put a lot of pictures of my kids up there and vacations and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I love doing it.
Do you find that people are more willing to contact you, say, on Facebook by posting a message to your wall, maybe than, like you said before, sending you a letter or sending you an email? Do you feel that it's easier for them and that they're more inclined to contact you that way?
Absolutely. It gives someone that opportunity to do that. I mean, think about when we want to get paper out and a stamp and go. There's such a process when you do that. Or even calling on voicemail. People just feel a little more comfortable when they're behind their computers.
Right, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. As you mentioned, if you're going to send a letter, you got to put it in the mailbox and put a stamp. Here it's just instant. You may be on Facebook, maybe not even looking to do that, but then you see, oh, here's something I want to comment about.
Absolutely. You know what, too, is interesting, Scott? I find a lot of people will say, my mother watches, but she's not on Facebook yet. Or so a lot of kids will do it for their parents, which is, I think, so interesting, because it just kind of shows the wave of the future, and that our kids are younger, our kids in high school and college and a little bit older are on these tools. Their parents aren't yet, but they want to. So I think it's pretty interesting.
I read a post you put on your blog, I think it was last week, when you mentioned about how difficult it is to manage all these different forms of communication, because you have voicemail, you have text messages, now you have Facebook, Twitter, responding to blog comments, all the way down the line. So how do you manage all that communication and not let it overwhelm you?
I became overwhelmed. And I became overwhelmed when we did this Facebook contest between me and Tony Rizzo, who could get the most Facebook friends in that short amount of time in that week. And when I checked my inbox, I had 300 email messages, and they weren't just posts, they were messages, they were questions. So I needed to respond to them. Work said, well, we can handle that for you. I said, no, I want to do that. I was overwhelmed because I'm such type A personality that I want a clean slate before I go to bed, know that I have the dishes put away, my inbox done, and that took me several weeks to get caught up on, and that drove me crazy, because then too I would respond, and then all those people would respond back. So then it just took me it was a process getting it to an area where I can reach it now, and I love it. But I mentioned a site that you can go, and there's a few of them out there that you can combine your emails, which, because you have your your work email, your personal email, and then if you're doing Twitter and Facebook. It does become overwhelming. And also, too, and I mentioned that, it's too many passwords to have to remember. You have to keep logging on to these different
Everybody
things.
tells you don't use the same password for everything, but if you don't, there's so many passwords that you have to remember.
There are. That's so true. So, yeah, I try really, right after the show, I try to get a lot of my messages and those things kind of taken care of.
Well, another thing I wanted to ask you about, too, is how do you think Facebook and these other platforms have changed the definition of what a friend is? Because you have close to 5,000 friends on Facebook.
I know.
Obviously, these aren't all people that you know in real life or have met in person, but you can develop relationships online by conversing with people. So, yeah, what do you think about that?
Oh, it's definitely changed. And I love that because you can also find it through the internet, through really avenues like Facebook, people that are involved in the same things that you are and that have the same passions that you have. And so you don't necessarily have to know the person or have ever met, but you do carry on a nice relationship. And also, having said that, I notice the chatters who watch, say, Fox 8 News in the morning, you can log on fox8.com and watch us online. So people that are working or they don't want their televisions, or maybe their kids are watching TV, they're sitting in their office, or they're sitting in the kitchen packing lunches, they have become a community. And I see how they talk amongst themselves. They're all very good friends. And it's really neat because most of them have not ever met in person, but they're there for each other. And it's really kind of cool.
Right. In these online forms of communication, you really get to know the person's personality by the way they interact with you online, which is a pretty cool thing. And you think you can be interacting with people all over the world or right in your own backyard without ever seeing them face to face, but you feel like you know them, which is something that's really cool.
That's right. It is really neat.
Now, one of the trends that's been happening is, particularly with Twitter, where breaking news seems to be breaking first online. When the plane went down in the Hudson, I remember the first pictures of it were posted on Twitter. Just this weekend, when there was the riot at Kent State, the first reports of it were on Twitter. Do you think the fact that this news is breaking online, do you think this helps or hurts the traditional news industry? I know you mentioned that really now with the Fox 8 website, that there's really a rush to kind of keep up to date and post things immediately as soon as they happen.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I think we're all working together, and I think too it even drives more people to want to see it on TV. When everything happened with the Hudson, that's where I saw it first, and I couldn't wait to turn on my television set because there you feel like you could still get. I still feel even almost better coverage on television. You can see things happening a little bit better and from all different angles. But I think that website, when you can find all that and rely on a tool like the internet is quite amazing. So I think it really supports the news industry, no doubt.
I agree, because it kind of alerts you that something is happening, and like you said, then you may tune into Fox 8 to see more in-depth coverage of it, to see what's going on.
Right, and you don't even have to do that if you want to just get all your news on the internet and on fox8.com or any of these news stations' websites. That's great too.
Well, speaking of that, I read a study that said a Twitter user is 2 to 3 times more likely to visit some of the top online news sites as someone who doesn't use Twitter. And do you think that's because that these news outlets are reaching out and developing a presence on Twitter? Or do you think that people who may be news junkies to begin with see there's stuff that's breaking here? I should be on
I
here?
think if you're a news junkie and you're kind of familiar and working yourself around the web, I kind of think that those are the people that are into more social networking sites.
Yeah,
that's just my personal opinion. I don't know.
Some experts have suggested that these tools like Facebook and Twitter, that they're actually going to be used to pitch stories to journalists and things like that. And I'm sure some of this is happening already. How do you feel as if somebody pitched you a story idea on Facebook or Twitter?
People do all the time.
Do they?
People do all the time. I can't tell you, and that's why I had told my news managers I want to be able to look at this myself, and they have given me some great story ideas, which I in turn have pitched to the station managers here. So I think that's great. Now, what my only concern are some of these bloggers where you read their backgrounds with the pressure and the hours that they work. You just want to make sure, too, you're getting them from a place, your news, if you're getting your information from a place that's validated, that's a credible source, because there are so many sources out there. Not everyone can just start their own television station, and not everyone can just start printing a newspaper, but anyone can start putting blogs up, and anyone can start doing that on the internet. So you have to make sure that where you're getting your sources are reliable sources, where you're getting your information.
Well, that's a good point.
That's my only concern.
Right, that's a good point you bring up, because now anybody can broadcast themselves, and I think for a while the question was, who is a journalist, and now maybe the more important question is, whose information can you trust?
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to make those really wise decisions yourself and make sure, again, you go back to those credible sources.
Absolutely. Well, Stephanie, thank you very much for sharing your insight with us.
It's great to see you.
It was great talking with you, and it's going to be really interesting to see how social media and the traditional news media continue to converge. It's very exciting.
It is exciting. You never know, and I marvel at how this industry has changed so much because of the computers and the internet. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
Cool. Have a good day, everyone.